Hmm. Exactly. So then the QAnon thing, that whole situation, you understand, like we are the original Q. But the whole Q thing started with Star Trek. That's what y'all first need to understand. The whole Q thing started from Star Trek. Go back and look at the first episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation. I remember watching on my little black and white TV. And Picard first was interviewed by a quantum intelligence named Q. And Q took him back to the time that Earth was going through its first apocalypse. And as this quantum entity, which basically represents like an AI computer, it was able to put him in different scenarios to test his resolve to see if humanity was worth it. Then there was a section in that movie where he brought Picard back to the beginning of mankind. He brought him back to a cave. And in the cave, there was like this primordial soup. And he said, this is you. This is what you came from. You know what I'm saying? Then again, going into Q, yes, James Bond. That's another aspect. Q is in James Bond is the guy that provides all the weapons. You know what I'm saying? That provides all the weapons and all that. Give me a second, guys. Islam. So that's kind of like where all of that stuff started. So this whole Q phenomenon that began with Trump with the 45 or whatever, that was basically a grassroots intelligence operation that was kind of there to negate all of the negative or all of the predominantly negative stuff that was happening with the ascendancy of him into that presidency due to the fact that it was all being um scripted, but then went off script when he actually got in. That's not what was supposed to happen. So that threw the entire algorithm of everything off that these guys do with the planet. Because I think he wasn't, so he was supposed to get in and then was supposed to basically let everything rock. But based upon his position and everything, of course, he's gonna play the opposite side of that. And so that became the death knell for their overall arcing program. And so before the Q thing, you remember there was something called Anonymous. Remember that? And now Anonymous is showing up now that everybody's exposing whatever this Q situation is. Remember that, right? So where are all of these things coming from? They have what they call troll farms in different countries. But just like they have troll farms, they have think tanks, literal tanks where people are there injecting real time information by intercepting communications coming from different various NSA, intelligence agencies. And so those people then by proxy put it out to other people who then pick it up, and then that becomes part of the general feed of information that goes out. So that's how it all is able to circumvent the algorithm. So all the algorithm can do is try to incorporate all that data into its mainframe processor, meaning it takes all of the variables and the free radicals and tries to estimate an overarching plan to involve them in. So you want to destroy a system, but this system that you're trying to destroy will find a way to incorporate you into it while trying to destroy it, and then market that destruction back to the people that you're trying to wake up. You understand? This is all a precognitive event because it's already all happened already. That's why it seems familiar. They can't come. What you're seeing is the more evidence of the quantum redundancy revealing itself. They cannot create anything new. So everything has to be recycled energy from what they've been siphoning from the beginning. So nothing's working. So every time they try to come up with a new op, we've already exposed it. Meaning that the ops that they come up with are already exposed before they come out with it because we're already in the fifth dimension. You understand? So the minute they start hatching this shit, we already get wind of it. How do I know half the shit that I be telling y'all? Really? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about being right anymore. It's about right and wrong. Because in a quantum reality, a fifth dimension reality, there's no lag time in what you know. You either know it or you don't. If you don't know it, then you forget everything about it. You understand? It's only in this third density that created the juxtaposition of choice that makes us believe that these things happen along the lines of a random occurrence when the universe itself is pulling towards a deterministic theory or to a deterministic octave. You understand? Yeah, but nobody, everybody wants to dictate how black people are supposed to revolt. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. Because anybody that's talking about how black people should revolt are the people who are the enemies of the black people. So what if they burning shit down? So what? You know how many white people burn shit down after baseball games, basketball games, hockey games every month? They just don't televise that shit. Now that think about it, there's no sport, there's no open sports arenas. Where's all of this energy going? That's all these Antifa people. That's all of these George Soros backed organizations that are acting to destabilize the free liberty of the people. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with anything else other than that. That's why you can't get caught up in what other people dictate what they're supposed to be doing. They're all talking about how these people shouldn't be doing this, doing that. That has nothing to do with it. The question is, where are all the people with the guns? Everybody that's allegedly shooting each other in the street, all these black people in Chicago with the guns, how come they ain't pulling out the guns shooting at nobody? Where the guns at? How come they ain't put out a couple of years ago, the brother put it out there how they put pallets of guns in the hood. Now they're not putting guns in the hood, they're putting pallets of bricks in the hood. Think about that. What's really going on? This is a calculated event. What it is the corona thing I told you wasn't going to work. It can't work that. We already smashed it. And then in smashing that, you also smashed the WHO, the CDC, the United Nations, right? Smashed all of them people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that didn't work. So when that didn't work, what did they say? Okay, let's bring in the murder hornets. Remember them? What happened to the murder hornets? What happened to them? Where they at? So that didn't work. So what do they got to do? They got to resort back to what? The one thing that's keeping this society where it's at. You understand? Police brutality is the linchpin of white supremacy. That's the last stage of white control. If they lose the police, if they lose the ability to kill and murder innocent people or so-called minorities, you understand? Through the police, they lose all control in the states. You understand? All police, black or so-called white, are the problem. They're the problem. They're out there killing, maiming people every day, right? This was back in 1990, okay? So they've been preparing you for this through comedy for a long time, is what I'm trying to say. And what you have to do is look at the narrative that they're expressing to you. The narrative is this guy, George, right, who happens to be a security guard, also worked with the same so-called pig that allegedly killed him. Both these security guards also were porn stars, right? Also are porn stars. He, the black guy, does black straight porn. The cop does allegedly gangbang, gangbang homosexual. Okay? Then these two guys who obviously knew each other prior to this were both involved in a porn agency, porn industry. The guy also happens to be the brother of a famous NBA player who also happens to be a famous NBA player, and he also happens to be the other guy. But then when we really look close to the other guy, we didn't see that he looks more like this guy. Because the guy that they charging now don't even look like this dude. Yeah, Stephon Jackson. Right. 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 So what you have to understand off top is that this whole thing, not only is it scripted, the whole thing is falling apart in front of our eyes. You actually got black people now that's out there calling out the white people, breaking up all the property. Think about that. Think about that. You've never seen anything like this before. So it's definitely, this apocalypse is definitely going back and forth. But what the main thing is that all of the fake stuff they doing is not working. Because like I said, the narrative is so crazy now that you can't even really divine what's what with it. You dig? What you do know is that you have adjutant organizations funded by a known international terrorist doing sorties out on the American populace, running straight psychological drills on them. Right? Then the day of the killing, the dude's wife is the one that outs him via Twitter. So what you're watching is a large-scale Hail Mary op based on all of the other ops not working. Through every time one of these ops is exposed, they lose more money. Think about the Corona op, how much money they done lost now, not only through the WHO, but the fact that allegedly Bill Gates is basically under so-called they got the sealed indictments out for him too. And allegedly he has now paid people in the Chinese government to for protection. And when that happens, they usually outsource that to the Fighting Tongs. So if you see Gates and his wife walking around with a bunch of Chinese people, those are his bodyguards. That's the Fighting Tongs. That's a part of the White Dragon. That's under the White Dragon Society. Black Dragon Society is trying to pay for his protection. Because what's happening is we're watching the destabilization and the marginalizing of China. China is about to go the way the United States is going. So that's why they're trying to go into Hong Kong, mess that up, trying to go into Africa, mess that up, but it ain't working. So you got Bill Ray, the cash cabbie, posing as this dude that allegedly kills this guy, right? But then when we look at the actual thing, side-by-side comparison, it's two different people. The same way they did with the shooter at the movie theater, the Dark Knight Batman shooter, swapped him out. It's obvious. So while the police was guarding the house of the murderer, allegedly, the whole precinct was then locked down, was burnt down. And now this has spread to other cities. But one of the governors just came out and said 90% of the people that they arrested is not even from the city. So you see what I'm saying? Something's happening. It's all shutting down. I told everybody in 2012 on Super Hayward Radio, from this point on, None of the stuff that they doing is going to work the way that it's been working in ages past, because the spiritual time for all of that is over. And we are now on the ascendancy. Okay? So the thing is, this also has revealed all of the police that's in our community. Killer Mike was on there talking about how his father was a police officer, his uncle and his brother and his granddaddy, and it's like, damn, so you just come from a long line of police. I wouldn't have known that based on how you rap all about drugs and shooting niggas and all of this other stuff. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with your man Tip. He on there talking about, oh, this Wakanda, this sacred space. Y'all can't do this, don't do that. That's like the Dream talking about, please don't burn down my property. Like, I get it, but you can't be about the revolution and still like just don't mess up my crib. You understand? It don't work like that. The people don't know the difference. And that's also so that you may not have shown the people the difference in terms of how your business works different than any of the other so-called business. Like, didn't the dude get shot in Atlanta? Where's the jogger from? Where did that happen at? I forgot. Remember, there's still two major other shootings just happened. The jogger, right? And then the sister who they ran up in the crib pregnant and killed her. This George Floyd is like the trifecta. That's the third body. But think about it. And all of this energy is now fostered based upon the death again of another Asiatic man, allegedly. You see what I'm saying? Allegedly, because again, I can't say, you can't say either way, because the way that they've made it. One thing about this guy in the office, he exposed the fact that it's all fake. They've been practicing yellow journalism, and they've been a part of Operation Mockingbird that has never ended. So all of it's fake. You understand? All of it's fake. All of it. So you just so happen to be this. So that means he killed this dude that he knew. If this is the narrative we're giving, I'm asking y'all to speak freely. This is the narrative you're giving. He knew this guy. So if he knew this guy, then that means that the murder must have been premeditated, right? But if there was no murder, then technically nobody can go to jail. And they already came out with an autopsy that said that he didn't die from the kneeling. Who looked more like this guy? This guy or this guy? You tell me. Right. I'm just saying that's what it looks like to me. Because there's a part of me that I'm to the point where I'm not giving my emotional and spiritual energy to alleged deaths that always seem to be mired in some stupid shit. Excuse my language. I'm not going to emotionally allow myself to become so inflamed and angry about the constant barrage of police brutality and murder when the obvious solution is a nationwide, worldwide referendum against police. That's the only thing you can do at this stage. You understand? You can't do nothing else. There has to be a national referendum against police across the board. That if the police do this and that, they either go to jail automatically, or when you see them doing it, you got the right to kill them yourself. That's the only way it's going to happen, because that's constitutional. You have the right to be secure in your persons. You have the right not to be stopped and frisked. You have the right to these things. It's not a privilege. It's not something granted to you. This is your inalienable right as a human being that was enshrined in the same piece of paper that they swear an oath to, then immediately start serving the other constitution to the devil. There's no such thing as a good cop. You know why? Because they all cover for the bad ones. And the ones that are good can't stay cops. They kick them out. How can you be dirty? How can you stay dirty in a mud? How can you stay clean in a mud fight? Can't do that. I just showed you. They told us they was going to do all of this in 1990. What are we bugging for? What are we bugging for? This is already we was laughing about it when we watched this on The Simpsons, remember? We was laughing when George had a knee on his neck when it was a cartoon. But all of this is the setup for what? For the reality. Because all of these guys are what? Freemasons, which means they're all what? Liars. Liars. Here's something fun you can do when you ain't got nothing to do. Go online, get a list of all of the black males in the past 3 years or whatever that they said that they killed, and then go online and try to find obituaries for these people. Okay, who it is? Bland, any of them. Look it up. You see if you find one. You see if you find them. The arrest records, the death certificates. Look for these things. What we have to realize is that we are in the auspicious time that all the negative karma is on them now. That's why nothing they doing is working and people not getting it. Nothing they do is working anymore. The minute they come out with the lie, there's 15 million of us on the internet that are already smashed it in real time. That's the truth. That is that quantum energy that they have qualified under the term Q. And because it's not definitive of an individual, they have made it so-called anon, like anonymous, right? You know what I'm saying? But remember, the first version of this was anonymous. The guy in the Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta. Remember that? They was the one dropping it. But before that, it was what? WikiLeaks. But now WikiLeaks dumped everything on the net. So all of it to prove what we need to prove or do what we need to do is already out there. Like, for instance, what were the stores that were looted mainly when they started the situation, right? They started looting what? The AutoZones and the Target, right? Specifically, that's where it started. That's where we see the image of the police coming through, breaking up the window with the black umbrella, right? The Umbrella Academy, the Umbrella Corporation, the Umbrella Society, right? But how many people knew in 2008 in them same cities George Soros bought all the AutoZones and bought all the Targets in the area? So not only is this nigga staging what stores that he wants to focus the crowd to destroy, but he's also going to get the insurance money off of it. Same way Saperstein did when they bust down the towers. Ain't nobody talking about that, though. That's just coincidence, right? In a random idea of the world, yes, but we're more. So we deal with a deterministic idea. We know that Allah is at the center of all things. And that what these people are thinking they're doing in the light is actually coming to the day. Right? Right? That's why you got black people out there now pointing out the obvious police ops that's in the situation. Because everybody that's doing the looting is white people. I'm not saying black people ain't stealing stuff, because they supposed to do that, because they're the oppressed ones. The oppressed ones get to break shit up. That's the rule. That's the rule of the society. That's the unspoken rule in any society that you exist in. The oppressed people are the ones that always rise up and destroy it. Right? Right? No matter where you at. No matter what you do. No matter how long you're in power. It don't matter. The poor people gonna come and put you out. Because that's what history tells us. And we Moors, we are students, not only of history, but of the spiritual significance of how history interplays throughout the procession of equinoxes. And how each of those processions integrate through the four gates. Okay? I told you, history repeats itself, right? Didn't I tell you that the Africans, that the Portuguese, that the amalgamated Portuguese back in the days got the Africans and converted them to the point where Alfonso, the Congolese king of his own dominion, was so on the Johnson of Alfonso that he changed his name, took the Christian name Alfonso, and then converted his people, the Congolese, to Portuguese Roman Christianity, which basically enslaved them, then put them on boats to go to Portugal, then sent them over here as infantrymen to take our land. Didn't I say that? Didn't I say that the Caucasian people always using the Africans against us? Peep this. Wow. Just wow. A paid group of Somalis that were imported into Minneapolis, Minnesota are now running the streets rapid, and America thinks that they're Black Americans. How smart, Soros. Blinded by the light. Wake up. Thanks, Obama. Didn't I tell you that they always using these Africans and these other nationalities to come over here and make us look like animals? And then they use to sell out people within our community, the police sympathizers, like these rappers. Lil Wayne coming out talking about, oh, you know. But again, what you gonna say about him? He was raped from the time he was a child. You know what I'm saying? He don't know nothing. He ain't never been around no real so-called Black people since then. His whole life, these rappers' whole life is scripted. And you want them to be true? You want them to be pillars and paragons of role models? They can't. They can't do that. That's why we Moors, we used to do stuff like this. You understand? That's why we used to do stuff like this. This is why we used to make sure that we knew who each other was and why we lived in our own communities, dominions, right? Because we knew that these people was taking Moors, re-educating them, killing them, putting them in the concentration camps, infecting them with smallpox or whatever, and then they send them right to our communities, right? We got to get back to all of this. You could tell who the Moors, who's a part of the society, and who isn't. See us inspecting the goods, inspecting the guns, inspecting the food, inspecting the crates. This is the original custom. This is what customs come from. All of this come from the Moorish Navy. None of these people knew how to run nothing. These Caucasian people that are doing stuff today is doing it based upon the reconstructed history that was given to them. And we can see now it's falling apart. It's over. So you mean to tell me, with all the police brutality, with all the police killing, with everything that's happening now, you mean there's people still going to the police academy? That means that these people want to be a part of something that was only created as another means to disenfranchise original people from their communities and put them into a perpetual state of servitude and terror. Because we have to be in terror. That's the thing. They need us terrorized at all times. You understand? So, again, you done went from the top of the month, the top of the year, it was almost World War III with Iran. Then Kobe and Gigi, right? Then the COVID, right? Then the murder hornets, then all of this other type of stuff. None of that stuff worked. Remember, you was about to all get chipped up last month. They was about to pass the law to chip up everybody last month, remember? Just last month. Remember? And what happened? That galvanized doctors all over the world to say that it's fake. All over the world. Do you understand? Nobody. So when they go attack CNN, you understand that's a coordinated attack. How come they didn't attack Fox? They both be telling the same lies. Why didn't they go at Fox? Because Soros got interest in Fox. You know what I'm saying? He trying to build up his interest in CNN. Yes. Because the CDC was all under the WHO. Now that the WHO is done, it's over. The CDC don't got the money to do the chips and all that. You know, Gates and them ain't going to use their money. They ain't going to use their own money to pay to chip all of y'all. They need money to do that. But Gates can't do that now because now the whole thing with him, Fauci, and all of that then came to pass. That all then came out. What he did was against the law. They set up the CARE Act a year before the virus even manifested. Then we have the proof that they cultured the viruses in the same Wuhan labs that they flipped the Adrenachrome at. You understand? Anybody seen the Epstein documentary the other day on Netflix? The fluff piece they did for homie? Anybody peeped it? They showed more than I thought they was going to show. You notice how quiet Chris Tucker is? You notice how quiet these Negroes are? He ain't trying to get no light. He ain't trying to have nobody look at that thing on the manifest. Because the first thing you're going to say, oh, well, I just, I came from, I was going with them to Africa. So you was going with Bill Clinton to Africa to do things for Africans when he created the school to prison pipeline. You palling up, y'all palling up with this nigga, jumping on his back like you know him like that. That's why they feel they could do what they do to our people, because in the end, they know. They don't care. They don't got no respect, because the only black people they deal with is those types of black people. These Jamie Foxxes, these celebrities. People who are actors. People who do not have a moral compass. Who will do anything if you put a script in front of them. We don't know any of these people. None of these things are real. Look, if this is scripted, imagine history. I'm waiting for the fake alien invasion. That's what I'm waiting for. That's next. That's next. They don't already, and they low-key putting it out there. Do you realize that they just put out that they verified basically everything I've been talking about for the past 20 years? They just put out that they believe and know that parallel universes exist. You know that they put that out? Do you know that they put out that Pentagon debriefed over 300,000 images of UFOs and have confirmed that they actually exist? And nobody cares. Nobody cared. Ain't nobody heard that. Ain't nobody talk about that, because that's not important. You understand what's going on? Like, it's too much wild stuff going on for you to even focus. For you to even focus on that. You know how many people took the United States to court, died, all types of stuff trying to prove that aliens and all this stuff exists, and they just put it out there on the internet, nobody cares? That's how you know it's over. It's over. We just got to hold on to what little we got. One thing about this guy in the office, he know how to protect money, get out of bankruptcy, handle bankruptcy, and he know how to make a good deal. So I don't care about anything else. Because one, he's not my president. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the other thing with black people. Like, he's not even your president. What do you care what he thinks? What do you care what he says? Oh, so the white man's your leader. So then when you bring it to him like that, then it's like, oh, you trying to sneak this. No, I'm keeping it real where you at. You believe in the mainstream media story. You know what I'm saying? Don't get mad at me for you know what I'm saying, calling out what you doing. So you believe these people. You believe your newscasters. It's over. Look, they don't even have no ability to control what's happening. It's over for them. They don't have enough blood. Not enough of us is dying now for them to be able to maintain a certain degree of serotonin within their body. Remember, they drink and eat melatonin to survive, to balance them out. And that comes from living people. So now what happened because of the corona thing and the infestation, all of these white people that's over the years been consuming this adrenochrome on every level of society are now all dying. faster than they were going before. So now what they need is they need more hemoglobin from us to produce a synthesized form of adrenachrome. So what they got to do is mass traumatize everyone to be able to pump that in the blood. So when you take it down to get your blood drawn, they also getting the adrenalized blood from you, because you've been traumatized by seeing this nigga with his knee on this nigga's neck for the past 24, 48, 72 hours. You see what they doing? Like, Moore's not, we not even paying attention to the levels of the game, man. Remember, they're extinct already. They've already said they birth rate 0. Remember? Why are we bugging? Why are we acting like they're gonna be around this much longer? They're not gonna be around much longer. They can't. So what they gotta do? They gotta try to get as many of you wrapped up in a little drama, right, as possible. Look, I'm about to prove it to you right now again. Everything that we've been talking about, well, I can't speak for everybody, me. Everything that I've been seeing and been talking about for the past, since 1997. You understand? My own family, my own friends, all these niggas acted like they was against it. I mean, known rappers, niggas I know that's out here, you know, F the police, we Africans. These niggas is down with it. They don't want this thing to end because they're dependent on it for their survival, Moors. What's the relationship between melanin, melatonin, melanocytes, and intelligence? The pineal gland secretes melatonin, which activates the pituitary gland to release the melanocyte-stimulating hormone. It is the melanocytes that melanin. It is in the melanocytes that the melanin is produced. Most Europeans and people of European descent have calcified pineal glands. Pineal calcification rates within Africans is 5 to 15%. Within Asians, 15 to 25%. Melanin gives Black people advanced mental and physical abilities. Look, for a so-called melanated baby, 9 hours the baby's starting to sit up and can hold its head up from not falling backwards. European, Caucasian, Asian, so some African babies, 6 weeks. So you see why they're kidnapping babies? Do you see why they're eating babies? It don't come from the skin. It come from the melanocyte, which means it come from the blood. So they need more blood because the princes of the Drakenburgs that I've been talking to y'all about, of the Corvin family, of the Corvid dynasty, from the House of Anjou, and who were the patronage of the Draconian Society of the European Black nobilities. These stupid monarchists ingested this form of Black magic into the genetic upbringing of their social class, and now their whole social class is stuck to that way of being, and that way was always demonic. And these Moors, these dirty European Moors, when I say Moors, I mean melanated people who were ruling over these so-called Caucasoids, Khazars, and experimenting over them and doing all of these horrible rituals and shit up to them or whatever, is the reason why we're dealing with it today. And everybody that practiced Freemasonry is continuing this long line of blood drinking. Remember, the Pope is under the Patriarch of Rome, and the Patriarch of Rome is under the other 5 patriarchs, the chief of whom being the Ethiopic one, because those Ethiopians from the Axum was the one that established Rome, which is why Italy attacked Ethiopia. Okay, so this is what's really going on. So everything else is whatever. That's why you're not hearing about certain society, certain celebrities and all that no more, because a lot of these guys is already dead. They don't already killed these people in summary execution and all that. And so what happens? They throw out the clones, right? When in doubt, bring the clones out. Okay? So that's what they're doing. But like I said, the clones don't even match no more because they can't clone anything past the 7th generation. The other thing with clones, they always have weak necks because they don't have no real spinal fluid. So, okay, maybe this is the same person. I don't think so, but whatever. Either way, it don't matter because this has nothing to do with us. What you see happening is the natural progression of a society in its decline. And anything that you're doing to try to stop that from happening is only going to help it decline that much faster. And again, I thought that's what we wanted. Didn't we want that? Am I bugging? You think these people was sitting in 1492? You think they was sitting around fretting on what we thought was going to happen? Or what we was going to do? Or how it was actually going to fall for them? You think they was thinking about that? Boom. It's all coming out. The HLA, look, if we spell this backwards, that's Allah. That's BLR. That's BLR. BLR 35 in Mexican, Amerindians, and African population. Boom. That's here, right here in America. The original so-called Mexicans. Not these mestizos Siberians that came over when Tsar Alexander freed the 30 million Caucasian slaves from the Gulag and Siberia. So what I'm really telling you more is we're ahead of the game. Like we're really, you know what I'm saying? These protests and these rebellions that we see happening, they're supposed to be happening. They're supposed to be doing that. And the thing is, and you know it's real because Barr, the Attorney General, came on and he said, the people have the right to do what they're doing. What we're against is the organizations that are funding some of the civil disobedience that's sprinkled among the rightful protesters. When you ever heard white people say shit like that? When you ever heard that, man? You say what you want about this nigga. This nigga done shut down GATT, shut down NAFTA, shut down UPU, shut down WHO, shut down CDC, shut down the what you call it, human trafficking ring internationally. And again, I don't like this dude. He don't like me. He don't like black people. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's what black folk don't get, man. He doing what they knew he was supposed to do. That's why you see all them white people crying when he was coming in. That should have told y'all. He is here to get rid of all of this. He's going to stop all of everything we're doing. He's going to stop it. What he's stopping is the mind control monopoly over the black people. Don't care about him. He's not my president, but for what I see him doing to the country that he's in, he's doing a good job. Because like I said, that nigga know how to deal with bankruptcies. He know how to deal with insubordinate employees, right? He know how to deal with them, and he know how to make a good deal. Do you understand? Amongst the Jewish soldiers in Hitler's army, he had over 150,000 card-carrying, circumcised Jews, white Jews, helping him do that to the rest of these so-called Jewish people. Goebbels was a castrato. Himmler was a castrato. This is what they're going back to. You understand? The only Negroes that was ever enslaved in the United States was the white folks. From 1609 to 1812, officially, but we could take it back further than that. Nothing but slaves. So many enslaved Caucasian people that they used to have trains called the orphan trains where they used to just ship white people to different places in hopes that black families and whatever would adopt them and put them to work slavery. They know what to do with them. These are the people who were groomed to be the ones to destabilize and take your country away from you. And these are the people who are now having the country taken away from them. It's very simple. We should be supporting that. I'm not with murder. I'm not with any of that. But I'm with freedom at the expense of all falsehood, like everybody should be. You understand? My goal, my personal goal, was to flood the game with so much real Moorish information that pretty soon all they can talk about is Moors. And it's happening. It's happening. Even the Aboriginals, even these Indian niggas, even these other ones, they are starting to realize everything that we've been saying, everything that the prophet been saying. So it's not for us to diss, let's say, somebody like Marcus Garvey, who we know was working towards the end, was working with Plekla to help create this scheme or whatever, because at the same time, he still galvanized the entire race of people. But he knew he couldn't bring it full circle to what he was doing, so what did he do? It had to be alley-ooped to the one man that could get it straight, and that was the prophet. Everything the prophet said came to pass. He told them if they didn't do it, the world would be plunged into war. He told them if they didn't do it, the United States would go into bankruptcy. He told them if they didn't do it, the world would turn against them. Everything. And what happened? All of that was culminated. Even Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. Try to get the book Fall of America if you can right now. This is exactly why Amazon banned his books, because they don't want you reading Fall of America right now. You understand? If everybody, for instance, that was out there protesting had a copy of Fall of America in their hand, what that would do psychologically to white people? Psychologically, I'm talking about. No, we don't even think about that because we don't even look. Like when we see pictures like this, they got us thinking this is in India, but this is America. This is how far off in the game we are. This is them meeting the Tipu Sultan when he came to the States. Look at us meeting the castrados. All these dudes castrados. All these dudes slaves. All these dudes butlers. All these white people in this thing right here. They all butlers. Look at the Moors holding them down. Look, we coming in on the elephant, bro. Look, they living in tents. They got tents. Look at the city in the back. So because the Freemasonry thing is the tie that binds all these guys together, you have to understand they have to continuously do these rituals to reinforce their control, not only amongst the populace, but amongst themselves, because they self is breaking rank. You got police that's actually now trying to act like they marching with the people. Think about that. But if you was really with the people, you wouldn't be the police. You see how it worked? You don't put yourself in hell to make it better. You understand? You don't do that. That's maladapted. That's how Khazarians think. That's how slaves think. You don't put yourself in a crazy situation to make the situation better just for you. You assess the situation and come up with the best possible advantage to gain success. These white people didn't create industry. They stole industry. Everything, they stole it. It was already here. But why is it that none of our people who was kicking us this immense knowledge told us that? Why they didn't put us on? Why they kept telling us that we came from somewhere else? Because these niggas is down with it. Simple. Remember the DJ Kid situation? The dude that was sleeping with all of the females and all of that? Remember him? Hold up. Everything come full circle. everything come full circle. For those of people who don't know, there was a guy in Florida named DJ Kid, and he openly infected over 600 black women with AIDS and other various venereal diseases. Okay? This is in the same area that the whole Epstein thing was happening. How many people knew that DJ Kid, right, used to DJ for the parties that Epstein used to have and for the Clinton Foundation? He used to DJ Epstein's parties. We're not going to get into that, though. We're not going to red table talk that, though, right, Jada? Because then we would have to talk about the fact that you could be a dude, too. Anybody supporting Oprah, anybody supporting Gail is the police. So, of course, you could get Snoop on the show and break him down because, again, that's Snoop. He been the police. Suge told you that. But you can't get no real people on that show and start asking questions because then it's going to get uncomfortable. You understand? And we're going to have to get into what sex these children was actually born as and why you're walking around here acting like you're something that you're not and why these other black women around you is supporting this obvious fraud. You can't be against one aspect of the fraud and then uphold the other. You can't do it. But you can if all of y'all are Freemasons because that's how you're raised. You understand? Islam. But we're not getting into that. We're not going to get into that because, again, that's going to expose too much other stuff. For the fact that we have obvious disinformation agents. Like they had an open tranny dude speaking to the police representing Black Lives Matter, like an open transsexual guy. Not open, but he was acting like a girl, but it was a guy. And this is who's representing me as a black man who's been brutalized by police brutality my whole life and all that. This guy, this thing, this represents me. Well, yeah, because the Democratic Party has decided that no black man and black woman are going to be together. So anybody on TV has to be, and she's black, she's going to be with a white man, and he's going to be with a white woman. If they are together, it's going to be an abusive situation. So that way we can negate you ever even wanting to do that. And if it is a black show, it has to include gay rights and has to include the main character being somewhat racially ambiguous and ready to date everybody else except their own. That's the type of society you want. That's what we want. All liberals are Satanists. Why? Because the term liberal comes from the Liber Al, like I told you. And the Liber Al is the satanic verses or joints that come from a guy named Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, who is one of the founders of the arcane sexual deviant societies in the world, is also the father of Barbara Bush and a lot of other people in the world that have risen to prominence in this decadent system. And so the Liber Al was the book that he actually wrote that incorporated how to integrate society into a Luciferian process, into a Luciferian doctrine. So the transgender movement, this right here is one of the heads of it. This guy right here, he was down with the World Health Organization. This is Jennifer Pritzker. This is the Thelamite image of Iwas Rawhal Hewitt under Newt and Rawhal Hewitt, Iwas, Newt, and Ma'at. This is what is in their altars. But this is the guy that's funding it. This is the guy, him and a couple of other people are the guys that are funding all of these agencies that are also in bed with George Soros. So what I'm telling you is that the transhumanist agenda that's been happening is an open satanic agenda, and any black people down with it is not working with black people. And most of the people doing it are people like these Candace Owens types that's all married to Caucasian men or Caucasian women, and they're the ones in mainstream always talking to you about what you need to do. Because the Freemasonry thing is what is popping. Because they have conned us out of our own genetics. They got us thinking that we need them. And these times will let you see how real that is. Understand? Because they know that everything was from the beginning was trafficked through the woman. Once they got the black woman to accept the welfare system, food stamp system, where she would then negate the man being a part of the family, she put herself directly as a ward under the World Health Organization. If you don't believe me, look at your mother's birth certificate or your birth certificate and see if there's a WHO endorsement on it. And that was the system that was then integrated to stop us from being self-sufficient. And that is the system that was instituted by people like Joe Biden, people like Hillary Clinton, all of the so-called Democrats and Republicans. They're both equally as devil. But now that Trump flipped the treasury and all of that, we got to find out exactly who is actually now the backing aspect of the bond. In my opinion, now it is the Republic, because now it's gold and silver. Remember, China just made its joint the world reserve currency, which means within 50 years, China's not going to exist. China's going to be exactly where the United States is right now. When Britain made the sterling its world reserve currency, Britain fell. United States made the dollar the world reserve currency, United States fell. It's just how it is. So, where that leaves people like us who are actually of the original ilk and of the original understanding that we have never been from anywhere else but here, all we need to do now is consolidate our base as our community of the original constituents of the Republic, because that's what it's all going back to. And what you see now are demonstrations against that being perpetuated by so-called black liberals and black Freemasonic Satanists. See, everybody thinks in the zombie movies, the zombies are the bad guys. But the zombies represent those who have already accepted their fate, that they are totally ignorant. And the only way that they can come up with that ignorance is by devouring an intelligence that's greater than theirs. Therefore, the zombie is the one that's in its proper nature. The person trying to resist the zombie is actually the one that's forestalling the inevitable. So I'm not saying let the zombies come eat your brains. What I am saying is that whenever we look at those movies, we always look at it from the perspective of being the good guy. But you can't be a good guy in an apocalypse. You have to be whatever the situation called for. Worry about the morality later. Did you know in 1977, the National Institute of Anthropology and History of Mexico excavated the ancient Mayan city of Calamacalco, Mexico? What's so fascinating about the Calacamaco is that not only the fact that the city was built entirely from mud brick within the inscriptions of the Mayan language on them, but that hundreds of the bricks were found to have inscriptions in Arabic, Morabic, Kufic, which is Egyptian, Phoenician, and ancient Chinese. It's the Moorish Empire. because all of those nations are the nations of the Moors. The Chinese is Tartary. That connects us back to ancient Thrace, which connects us back to ancient Tauran, which connects us back to ancient Egypt, right? Phoenicia, we know that's ancient Canaan, that's Carthage, that's Etruskia, that's the Levant, that's the Latinum, right? That's the Moors. Egyptian, that's needless to say, that's Tamaray and all of that. The Murabic now, that's us. Punic, Iberian, whatever. Yes. There's another image of him showing you both types of the Moors. The eels and the Beys. Look, the red house, the blue house. But look what he holding higher. Look what he holding higher. Right. We're supposed to be rejoicing at the current events. We don't have no problem. I don't have no problem with these people looting. Whatever they want to do, let them do it, man. It's what they're supposed to be doing. If they didn't do it, there'd be more murders, right? So now, every murder that stack up from now, you understand what happens now? This ups the ante on them. The people doing all of the killing is the Caucasian people. How black people killing more Caucasian people in the world when there's allegedly less black people? How are they killing, if white people are the majority and black people the minority, how are black people killing more white people than black? It don't make sense. The majority of white, when the majority of white folk globally are killing everybody. While all of this is happening, like I'm telling you, everything is beautiful. Things are just booming for us as people. Right here, these three children right here are the smartest children, bona fide three smartest children in the entire world. They say that there's no three children that's smarter than these three right here. I don't want to say their name, put them out there, but this is, you can look it up online. They have scored higher than any other child on the planet on every test. So you see why they need the vaccination popping. You see why they need the corona popping. You see why they need the race war popping. So if they want, if they doing what they doing, they're gonna do that. But what I like is that this is the first time in history where I've actually seen somebody actually make a distinction, and black people themselves make a distinction as to who amongst them is doing all of the fighting and the horrible stuff. Remember, we just read that thing about them being Chinese, right? Look at the ancient Chinese. This is what Chinese people look like prior to the socialists and the Jesuit socialists, Mao Zedong, taking over. Remember they talked to you about the first Korean War, the war in Korea? Remember that? Well, these are the Koreans. Korean prisoners captured during the first Korean War about 1868. Note their near black complexions, evidence that Asia was once a cauldron of black skinned humanity. Sheikh Anta Diop quoted earlier and asserts that the present Chinese type developed from about 17,000 years ago. But these must have still been essentially all black, dark-skinned, retaining their pigment long millennia after. The photos below were taken over not very dark-skinned Chinese boxer captives. Remember you read about the Boxer Rebellion against Britain in China? All of those were Asiatic martial artists, devotees of Bodhidharma, the god of martial arts, who was a black man from India, what they call Hindustan now. Well, India now. Look, Note the very dark-skinned Chinese boxer captives and the other dark-skinned Chinese. Most from Asia or Burma, which is now Myanmar, Cambodia, Southeast Asia in general had similar pigmentation types, not to forget the predominantly black-skinned populations of Borneo, New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and the Western Pacific. And look right now at what's happening to all of the Moors in West Papua New Guinea. The genocide that's still going on. They fighting against the police. All Asiatics. So again, in clarifying, this is why it's so important that we knew where we're from. And when we say Asiatic, what we really talking about. We're not talking about China today. We're not talking about none of that today. We're talking about what it always is. Because when all of those places passed away, they all exist within our blood, our bloodline that we carry with us. So we got the ancient nobility of all the original ancients of the planet, which is why we're the most hated, because we civilized all of them. The destruction of West African civilization. This is another quote to show and prove that we had our own thing popping. Just from the book, get this book, Three Nations, Three Views, the Ontario Indian, right? From this is a compressed point where it basically says C.N. Atchison, in the compressed view, this is a paper you could get, a compressed view of the points to be discussed in the treating with the United States of America, 1814. This is from Canada, from this book, Three Nations, Three Ways. The ceded country was inhabited by numerous tribes and nations of Indians who were independent of both of us and the Americans, meaning the original Americans, the original Moors that was already here. They were the real proprietors of the land, and we had no right to transfer to others what did not belong to ourselves. This injustice was greatly aggravated by the consideration that those aboriginal nations had been our faithful allies during the whole of the contest, yet no stipulation was made in their favor. Who you think they talking about? The ceded country, meaning a country that existed before them and eventually got ceded to these imposters now. And they never gave us the mention. What they did was they concealed it all in Freemasonic teachings and concealed the true birthright of the empire that existed across the world up until, the fall. This is a 19th century bust of Johannes Mortis, who his name was Johannes Dictus Mortis, the governor of Sicily under Emperor Frederick III, the Moor of Germany. After 1250, the apostolic camera, and then he became the Magister Prepostius of Luceria in Italy under Pope Innocent VI. And then that's on your left. On your right is a painting of John Hanson Beck from the Swedish royal family. So if this was what the Swedes looked like up and around the time of the Revolutionary War in so-called America, and this is what the Italians and the Latin-speaking Sicilians, then that means, again, everybody that you see that's of the fairer complexion came in during the time of Reconstruction. So the white liberals and the Republican Democrats, you see, they are all under the democratized government, which is fake. That was totally different than these Moors. Look at the sign that he's saying. This is them marching to protect their own land. Look, it's nothing but black people. Look, can aliens fight Negroes on their own land? Who are the aliens they talking about? Exactly. Because we Americans have a distinct nationality that's based on our ancient Moorish forefathers. You understand? And those Moorish forefathers have forefathers who were ancient Carthaginians. You know what I'm saying? That were ancient Moabites, Canaanites. And we maintained our nations along those lines. And the European nations that came after Rome all came at the behest of us. So at the time that the House of Anjou was founded or came into existence, they were all technically still Romans, even though they had their own kingdoms, like the Kingdom of Croatia and all of that. But these are all European Moors. These are black men and women of means and nobility who are now being persecuted by the more conservative members of their cabinet. So then they leave and come over here and bring their white slaves with them. Then after the revolution in France, a lot of them decide to go back and then leave their houses in the stead of their butlers, these white people that's minding their store for them. And then these white people start to fight for their own freedom. You understand? Against everybody. This is from the Yale Law Journal. Yes. The Nationality Act of 1940 sanctions the distinction between American nationality, including American citizenship, and American nationality devoid of American citizenship. In terms of this statute, American citizenship embraces, in addition to those privileges and or duties which are inherent to American nationality, such as the possibility of diplomatic protection by the United States. You see that? So right there, we have distinguished that the United States is a separate entity from America, and the nationals of the United States established the United States then as a diplomatic aegis for them to pay bills or whatever through. Islam, okay? So y'all got that, right? And on the body, such as the possibility of diplomatic relations in the United States, and the body of obligations customarily referred to as permanent allegiance, the existence of those rights, which only a citizen enjoys under the Constitution. However, even recent legislation occasionally uses the term citizen in a wider sense, embracing any American national. Filipinos before the independence of the Philippine Islands are most conspicuously recent specimen of the American non-citizen nationals. It has been suggested that before the special statute made by the American Indian citizens, they should have been considered non-citizen nationals of the United States. Lawyers who act an earlier period of American history, see how we keep going back now. We went from the foreigners to the Indians, now we're going to the original people redesignate. Lawyers who at an earlier period of American history denied to native-born free Negroes the status of American citizens, but nevertheless held them eligible for diplomatic protection of this country, seem not to have been realized the technical possibility of construing their status as that of what? Non-citizen nationals. Although with regard to the declaring alien or aliens with the first papers. The prevailing opinion seems to be that the declarant aliens are not American nationals, since it has been settled that they are not within this country's diplomatic protection. And those anomalies which previously singled out their conditions from that other aliens no longer exist. See that? That falls under U.S. Section 8, USC 1408 of the Immigration Act. We are non-U.S. citizen nationals, or American non-U.S. citizen nationals, because we existed before the country and we have allegiance to the original republic that was founded in 322 BC. Islam. That's why the prophet said when the European got here, he found Moors living up and down the Mississippi River. And this document in stone is the legal proof. This stone is the cornerstone of the American Republic. That's why they call it the born stone. Like when they say born on the 4th of July. In Casacamacumet, where the original Hannibal Bay the Great of the Lion Barker family laid the foundation and then helped build all the great monuments and all of that, and refortify the ones that was already here from the ancient world. This is what the original capital looked like before they turned it into what you see it today. That's how it originally looked, or a drawing it was taken when Benjamin Bay and them was doing it before they turned it into the dome-shaped mosque. But it's based on this. See the same structure? You see in America. Remember they said it was 360 idols in the original Carpe, right? Found underneath the stairway along the eastern face indicates that the stairway was a latter addition, and that the niches on the original structure, not counting those, were the latest stowaway, a total of 365 for the solar year. So this is what I'm saying. This is why Mecca can be shut down, and ain't nobody even talking about it. Any Arab people you know talking about Mecca opening back up? They ain't even talking about it. Because it's a wrap. This is a wrap. When it open back up, it's going to be up under the whole new Chrislam thing. They done merged it with Catholicism openly now. That's why we, you know what I'm saying? You got to make a choice. What you going to do? You going to be that type of Muslim? You still praying to the Pope now? Openly? And you cool with that? Exactly. And he already told you that it's all fake. So again, now we're going to prove again, this is Morocco. Some people believe that America name stems from the mountain range along the Amarique, located in Nicaragua. Others believe that it stems from the word common to the several American languages of the Caribbean, South America, namely Maraca, pronounced maraca or maraca or ambraca, which this word meaning rattle or ground, right? That's why maracas are those shaking things, right? Is found as a place name for Venezuela, Maracapana, Maracay, Maracaibo, Trinidad, Maracas, Puerto Rico, Maracayu, Brazil, Maraca, Itamaraca, and elsewhere. Many very early maps of the Caribbean region show an island located in northeast Venezuela, which Nicaragua is actually located, called Tamarake. Tamarake. So again, Tamarake, Tamare, Tamarak, right? That's right here in America, which has interpreted as T Amarak or the Amarak, standing for tiara or terra land. All this before America first appeared as a name for the mainland, roughly in the area of Venezuela, which at the time was also Grenada. You understand? So we are ancient Moroccans. That's why I told you that Morocco is spelled with an A and not an O, right? That's why the country code for Morocco is MA, not MO. MO is Montana, which again is Old Morocco or Old Morocco. You see what I'm saying? See how they flip it? Again, making us distinct. So when we talk about Carthage, right? Carthage was right here in America, in the Americas. Excuse me, here it is. Here we go. That's Cartagena, right? All on the 33rd parallel, right? Where we put all of the empires at, right? The kingdoms. There it is. There's also a Carthage in South Carolina. There's also a Carthage in Idaho, I believe. Marocco. Maracaibo, see? Right there. Meridia, Pamplona, right? Medellin, all of this. The empire, right here. Carthage, Phoenicia, proven is right here. Get this book. America BC, but it says what? Tribes and languages of what? Asiatic origins. The Micmac hieroglyphs and what we call Burroughs Cave and all of that. Or the Montaka, the Algonquins, the Iroquois, Zuni, Pima, Anasazi. All directly connected to who? The Iberian, Libyan, ancient so-called Egyptian. And then by way of the ancient Basque and Celtic, tying up the international trade route to the empire. And here's Grenada in South America on your left, and what they now today call Mexico. They go to towns, the Pueblo, when they talk about the Pueblo cultures, those were all Moorish cultures. Don't let them fool you. We already showed and proved that the Indian came from the Moor as a misnomer. Look, the protective armies of Pueblo, according to the treaties found in the Article 8 of the Indian Manifesto, March 11, 1972. Look, Moorish array of posts protecting the pueblos, Moorish country flags. So wherever you see these things at is where we was posted at around the city. And the city itself, you see, is built on a star fort. So these battles, these fights, and what's happening, and these people are starting to realize that the only way really out is the nationality. That's the way in, because that's what they're lacking when it comes to that. Because anything else is Jesuit influence. You understand? Anything that's not Moorish science is Jesuit. Like that's how you got to look at it at this point. It's all Jesuit stuff, especially if it's dealing with some sort of ritualistic aspect. Not ritualistic to the point that you're not benefiting from it. If it becomes routine, if it just becomes something like that, then that means you've lost the remembrance, because remembrance of Allah is worth more than prayer. So learning more about yourself while you're incorporating those rituals and having your family and stuff a part of it is what makes it real. So all these Indian people that's hating on black people and all that, that's because it's from the book Consecrated Talismans. All of them fell under the Mahajapandas, which means the great realms, which became the kingdoms of Magadha and the Chandragupta Mauryan dynasties that led to all of the dynasties that eventually led to what you would know, I know it today as elements that degenerated from it called the Thuggee, like what you've seen in the Indiana Jones joint. Those were the ones rebelling, trying to put this type of stuff, these Moors back in control, but got caught up with the British Satanists and helped bridge the gap to all of those Indians that sold their people out to become billionaires and doing all the stuff they're doing now to help keep the caste system going. Because prior to the British, the caste system as they know it today didn't exist. So one of the greatest emperors that you read about in these ancient times was Asoka. And like I said, the Asoka dynasty, the Chandragupta, the Mauryan, these are the ones that laid the foundation of what we today call the ancient ones. And these were all the descendants of the Moabite peoples and their Canaanite, Hamathite, Hittite, Amorite, Adite, Damodite brethren who inhabited the lands long before the continental drift. These are the Asiatics that are in our blood today, which is why they need our blood, like I showed you, to be able to do what they're doing. Remember, we read in the temple, on the wall of the temple that they found in South America, that they found all of the ancient languages, because all of these cultures were part of the same dynasty. They just operated along their culture, their customary lines, right? So one of them, we read about, this is an excerpt from that book. We'll read about, came from the mosque they found out there. Oldest mosque in America is the one in Nevada, second to the Alamo, built by the Almohad dynasty. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, so all them pictures they be showing us, all that stuff be fake. Or it be brought out of context and then they just put the story on it. You get a Negro to validate it, went to one of their schools. The oldest map of North America. This map in Nevada, see, I missed the top. This map in Nevada of North America. This map in Nevada is according to the author an Arabic copy, inscribed by the Trans-Pacific settlers on a rock circa 800 AD. Copy from a Libyan original drawing from the 1st century BC. The map marked partly in ancient Libyan script and partly in Arabic. The Libyan script indicates the island of Hawa or Awa, is the Arabic for wind, and the fact that the northeast is North Passage And in the center of the continent is the word MR, the Libyan word meaning land on the other side of the sea, which is called a moor, right? When you dock a ship to something, it's called mooring the ship, right? And possibly the origin of the word America. See? MR, meaning more. So we just show where Morocco and Morocco come from, and Moroccan come from, but now we're saying that the word America is actually deriving from the root word MR, which may explain why America, the root word MR in America is the same as the root in Morocco, which is MRC, right? The ocean of storms, may God preserve us. The map remarkably for showing both sides of Hudson Bay and the Panamanian Isthmus, meaning the canal was already there. Look at them old maps, what they call, you'll see that there's a thing with it, it's already there. Just like you don't see any maps in China of the Great Wall until the 16th century. So how they explain that? Maybe the same way we explained Stonehenge when I showed y'all how they set that up. So all that stuff over there, again, is over here. They got us bugging. And now everybody feels that. So when you're talking about Libya, ancient Libya is over here. Nevada and all of that. And the ancient Libyan script, or the state of Libya, didn't come into effect until the 1950s. Remember? So what we see is a pattern of ancient places being already there, and then years later being forgotten, and in different places being named adjacent to them. What we also see is, one second. Where's that? Just had it. All of the capitulating factors to this being attributed to the missing history that we again have been deprived of due to our collective amnesia and those in our community who have sworn to never tell us, and through that receive, pats on the head and little trinkets. So now that all of that's crumbling, those of us that have been already educated in the proper dialectum have what we need now to usher in what we should, which is proper education and the ability now to stand on the republic side of things, which then would enforce whatever we need to happen and see happen for our empire. Our empire is our children. Understand? So collectively having a customary way of living then automatically protects them from any unseen Negrodom. And especially now with the enhancement of the police, we now have the ability to actively police our own selves due to the rampant murder that goes along with being around them, and be justified in doing so. They don't have to worry about none of that. So we've also found again and shown and proved that not only was Carthage here, which explains why Hanno was able to move up so far into the American continent and do what he did. And we also have verification that what they call the Red Sea is actually over here in the western portion of the United States in what they call the Gulf of California, right? Which we know is Old Khalifa, right? Old Mexico, and old, But this was directly connected to Tartary through the invasion of Genghis that came in the 13th century that brought the Siberian Mongols, the wild Siberian Mongols, who today call themselves Native American, who mated with the Appalachian wild Caucasians that we had already domesticated during the years of under what they call the Dark Ages, and then created the castrato system and all of that to keep their numbers low. And so when we read Black Asians from various dynasties, the Chow, the Shang, and many others migrated from Asia thousands of years ago to the regions of what we now today know as North, Central, and South America. These Black Asians mixed with the Black natives who were already occupying these lands. And this explains how some natives of indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, have high cheekbones and slanted eyes. This also is the image of the native of the Western Hemisphere and have been widely promoted. Other natives who do not possess the features were carved out of history. This to promote the natives that would look like the ones from the colonizer. See? So again, showing and proving that we as Asiatics existed in a state of pre-Africanness. How? Because we can prove it through the scientific phylogenetic view of the out of Asia, Eurasia, out of Africa hypothesis in the light of the recent molecular and paleontological finds. So on your DNA report, when it comes back sub-Saharan African DNA, they really not talking about you being from Africa. They talking about your DNA coming either above or below the so-called Sahara in Africa, using that as a model along the 33rd parallel, which then ties Carthage and the Phoenicians and the Moroccans and all of these people into one empire, which is why we as Asiatics were right and exact when we said so, which we'll read in a second. I just want to also show you this. This explains also the difference in Islam that was practiced by the original adherents, who were the Tamaracans, or Tamarayans, i.e. the Moors, high priests of Anu, who existed in the western portion of Africa and had been doing so since the fall of Alexandria. Meanwhile, the Arabs, or what we call the Arabs, who started off as dark-skinned Moors and all of that, basically pregenitorized themselves by interbreeding and through consanguinity created the so-called version of the so-called Arab today. And then 250 years after the fall of Islam, by after 1492, they then started to set out to set up their own aspect of that by enslaving those Moors to their version of Islam, and to further dilute the original Asiatic blood to cut off their connection with us over here. The substantial and out of Africa hypothesis was addressed in the light of recent genomic analysis of the extent of humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, and the progress of the Neanderthal paleontology, meaning that we are totally different than everybody else. The examination lent no support to the commonly assumed out of Africa scenario, but favored instead a Eurasian divergence between all other parts of the world were colonized by the Homo sapiens sapiens from Asia. And this is when the whole world was connected, right? So really we're talking about one people that just went out from different places. And the expansion, the examination suggested furthermore that the ancestors of the extant Khoisan and Mbuti compared to the first Homo sapiens sapiens into Africa, that they are the ancestors of the Yoruba, made up of the later wave of the same continent. Because the Yorubans is at the top, they were at the bottom. And then all of the so-called traditional Africans was in the middle. See what I'm saying? Which means that they were more connected to the Moorish Empire, because remember, Africa is a Latin word named by the Moors to define the region under Carthaginian control. So it's not really a place. It was more a designation. And so analyze that haplogroup to its see how far it went and why it was definitely possible for Genghis and the rest of the people to come over here and do what they did. Understand? So when we say, so when Elijah Muhammad used the term the original Asiatic black man, right? He is giving you an anagram for the word Moab. O meaning original, A meaning Asiatic, man being M, and B meaning black. So those of us who have chosen to ignore this aspect of our DNA, you see, are the ones that fall victim and are usually preyed upon and then are used to now come against us who have already accepted who and what we are. So again, the Moors and the Islam in Western Africa was different up until they CIA initiated the Boko Haram and the rest of these crazy people that's out there doing what they're doing. Just like Britain, the king of Britain was a Moor under and with the Moorish Empire, but due to the people in his community that was trying to now involve themselves in the rising Draconian states through this dude and his family. This guy, head of the House of Anjou, basically came over here through the French house, and his great-great-grandson, the Maison de Rouge, married into the French house and laid the groundwork for what we today call Louisiana. And those dark practices then got taken and evolved into the hoodoo culture, you see, that exists and permeates Louisiana and all that today. The zombies and all of that, and the vampires and all of that, like what you see in the Anne Rice books and all that. That was what the aristocracy in Louisiana and them was dealing with, because they were all part of the Draconian Society, Society of the Green Dragon or the Black Dragon, which again was a low-key Jesuit society dedicated to attaining power through satanic ritual, or what they at the time would refer to as Necronomicon. The Necronomicon in history was created by a Moor who they call Agahazared, who eventually went mad and eventually they say was consumed in a public square years after writing it. But there's not one necessary Necronomicon book. There's a bunch of them in which Crowley and these people, these Thelemites, these liberals, do these satanic rituals and theater blood plays that play out today, and is all enhanced by the Freemasonic culture given to us as reality. You understand? That's what's really going on. So these rebellions that we see happening is half rebellion, half theater. We should just be thankful that people see that it's actually more theater. I mean, that the parts of it that's theater is actually being seen also by the people as well. So that means now they looking even more crazy. You know what I'm saying? Since when you know they come up with the autopsy that quick on any dead black man by the pig? Nobody. They come back now and say he guilty, so they setting him up to get released. You know what I'm saying? While at the same time using women and white women and these people as constant to promote, actually one of us. They trying to really blend in. They trying to really become us. And then the other side of them hate us. You know what I'm saying? But it's all still theater. White people trying to call themselves eels and bays with no real connection to no real eel or bay that actually did it. Getting passes by sympathetic amalgamated Moors and these other people that don't even have no real connection to no real Moors that can make sure that these people have been vetted and at least given some sort of fealty mandate to be able to resurrect and hold them accountable during their time of observation. Like there's customs for Moors and what they're supposed to do with that. But when you see stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? You know it's some ritual, whatever going on. Because all of these guys, again, are Freemasons. That's why they're in the public eye, and you can't trust them. Not because all Freemasons are evil, but because in essence, you're still brotherhood. You're still brothers with the cop that killed this dude if you wear an apron. Period. And if this dude, God forbid, is not dead and it does turn out to be a hoax like everything else, like why wouldn't it be? You know what I'm saying? But police brutality itself is real. But when we really look at the origins of where all of this is coming from, it's all coming from our forefathers putting work in to the point that in trying to look out for the entire empire, we lost the individual states. But for the two considerations, one might all, whether European or African, can find shelter in the fold of sin and dangerous and unbelief when once it would be wrong, of course, to endanger the backsliding by emancipation. But for two considerations, I might suppose that colonial slavery originated in Muslim law, because it was a law to keep the devil bound. It was the law not to allow women and children to be murdered or eaten. It was the law not to have children molested and killed and all of that. Way longer than it wasn't. And so now that they're backsliding into this system, we have to understand that they're coming from a closing out of a three-pronged system. As we close out, hopefully you can see it. Yeah. Yeah, there were three constitutions drawn up. The national Constitution, which was the Constitution for the United States of America, which was 1787. Then you had the Territorial Constitution, which was the Constitution of the United States of America of 1789. Then the Municipal Constitution of the Municipal Constitution for the United States in 1790 to 1791. And the United States then became an article to then subsequently execute whatever deals it needed to do on behalf of the American people. But what the United States government did by 1871 was create citizens for itself by remaking the original citizens that they acquired through taking. Yeah, because all these guys are agents, man. How is it always the people who's the most so-called Caucasian people, Caucasian looking, phenotypically the ones that's doing the most speaking up, while all the dark-skinned original people in the street get murdered? You gotta switch all that. You gotta go back to the real, what's really important, getting the ills and bays back to their wills and ways. And the way to do that, again, is to unify both of those houses, which is really the unification of the higher self and the lower self, and then start working on some Morocco mold type thing. Acquiring, establishing, acquiring, reclaiming. While everything is being, when they say, what do the Romans say? When there's blood in the streets, buy property, right? This is the best time everybody should be going in, because that's what the white people are doing right now. You have a collective temple, you have a trust, you have this. If you guys collectively can nominate how much you want to attribute or pledge from your trust to do so, you guys can do that. Give that to the treasury along the right parameters to be paid out for the right of the emancipation and the upliftment of the fallen humanity and all that. But you have to have a structured trust and a structured identity under the national American, non-U.S. citizen national American nationality to do so. Because that American nationality is the couch for your Moorish American heritage, your custom. Amy Schumer is the daughter of, or granddaughter of, Chuck Schumer, who also, both of them is on the Epstein list of Long Island. Anybody have any questions? You would basically find out who's in charge of that situation, the head of the parks department or whatever, and then hold him to his oath and ask him to send you written explanation as to why he's depriving you of your liberty. And if the answer isn't satisfactory enough, then you put a lawsuit against them. Filing suits is easy. You just basically file it and then put it in there. And they are so used to not doing nothing, they gonna let it go into default. And that's when you get them. So again, what we should establish is that when we talk about originally European, we talk about Moors. We're talking about Asiatic people originally. We brought with them their Caucasian slaves and servants, who they called pilgrims and Puritans and all that, because they were all being persecuted and they didn't like what James was dealing with due to the conversion of the Bible that they believed came from somewhere else. Because it did. It was the translation of what was left over from Granada that they was basically putting in, which is really the story about us over here. So he wanted to, or they wanted to translate it in a way that we could use it, but where the European version of what we naturally were was now idealized. And so this, in a way, gave them the ability to marry into the families and then bring their type of law over our own. So this here is the Maronite and his white concubine slave that they would have babies with, and then those babies, if not put into good standing, would then be put in charge of the Mamelukes, the Wights. Remember, Benjamin Franklin said the Palatine Moors. The original thing says Moors, but then there's another translation that says Boers. But either way, they're talking about the Moors. We suffered from to swarm into our settlements. They will never adopt our customs any more than they can obtain our complexion. All of Africa, Asia, and America are swarthy black. Russia, Italy, Spain, France, Swedes, the Germans are black. The principal whites are made up of the Saxons and English. The Scots, Welsh, and Irish are not Saxon and English, which means they're black. Benjamin Franklin writes this in an essay in 1751. The German King George of the House of Hanover, George II, is now sitting on the throne of England. That's why they want to turn the matriarchy into a patriarchy now and bring John in, because Britain is on its own, so it needs a king. But they can't put no fake king up in there, so they're going to try to get William to be coronated, I think, and change his name to John. It's not going to work. Is he on the list too? Anybody else have any last questions? Yeah, get the book White Cargo. Talks about where the Caucasian slaves were brought into Edom, which we now call Virginia. The Arawaks and Tainos are Moors. Yeah, I do. Anybody like a copy of the Dark Scope 18, a hard copy, just hit me up, houseofl.com. I'll get them printed on demand. I'm working on the prequel of it now. Well, I have been for the past 2 years. But it looks like it's almost done. So again, man, just peep the ops. Know that they're all a part of the program, that they're all basically moving along the same lines of control. And so because it's all been predicted, the outcome is already done as well, meaning that they've already been exposed. So what we just have to do is keep our heads and not get caught up in the excessive amount of fluid information that's going to come in. Like they're going to bring up the porn star thing. They're going to show the tape. Pornhub's going to make a lot of money from that. You know, they're going to do their thing. However, the main aspect of what's happening is that the regime change is underway. And I don't think, based on the judge also came in and said that they can't do the paper ballots. So they're going to have to do real ballots which is why he was trying to open up the country that quick. And it's very hard to get an incumbent president out, even though he's tanking in the thing. So in terms of the fix, it's already pretty much a wash in terms of them getting in. And then this coming in is going to then create the next wave of transparency that's going to lead to the open arrest and all of that. As you see, this mall got locks on the side of this building, and he resembles this mall right here, the Marionite. And then lastly, you have these malls as well. It's all now going straight to going through all of the files and basically wrapping up everything against Obama because of the Flynn thing. So now that the Flynn thing is gone, it's going to be pretty much a wrap. It's open season for everybody. So the mysterious disappearance of Hanks and the rest of these guys is all basically the next phase of it after the election. So all we got to do is basically get whatever paperwork and things we need to get straight until then, and then move along that design. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of giants, see here, more. See the giant more. Exactly. Yeah, and due to the rise of this type of intelligence, it's put a lot of great researchers out there. People I don't even know. I just be looking at one thing and then I'll just go into the image section of Google and it just be all of this stuff. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the cross that you see Jesus put on is actually the white Caesar Borgia or the white Christ that was put on the cross of the four corners of the world, being that he was the global slave. And through his blood, they rose up to crush us. So this is also the cross of Tammuz, the original Coptic cross, or the cross that the Pope has, but they flipped it and put a black man on it now. That's why they all have to go. So again, Texas is Texas, or Texas, or Tejas, but it's the same. It's ancient Egypt, ancient Mauritania, ancient Andalusia, ancient Granada. All right? So anybody wants to hit me up about anything else or whatever, just do so at houseofl@hotmail.com, and then we'll take it from there. Islam. I think so. Peace.